two, one, and we are a go. All right, so welcome back, everyone, to the Moviebloop Podcast. This is episode six, five.
It,
I actually don't
uh,
even
Five?
remember.
a
I think
while,
it's I
I
a
think it's
while.
five.
I think it's five. It might be
I
five.
also it
Yeah.
is five.
Anyway, so I'm Michael. Oh my gosh, I'm Michael.
I'm just had a lot of chocolate, Brian.
Ah! I'm Jose.
I'm Steven.
And I'm Nathaniel.
I thought you were the caretaker.
I'm
He's
always
a
the
bitch.
kid.
Always been.
Oh, let me turn off the chest.
What?
That's a good idea.
The
Anyway,
Anyway,
anyway.
we just finished watching the movie Moonrise Kingdom. I think
Mhm.
Steven should intro it since he saw it
Dun,
before.
dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun,
Moonrise
dun.
Kingdom is a 2012 film, written and directed by Wes Anderson. Um,
What?
I enjoyed it a lot on my first watch, which was a few years ago, and on this time, I enjoyed it probably more. If I had to describe this movie in one word, I would say delightful. It was I enjoyed it thoroughly. But
Steven.
anyways, I think we should go down the line and say how our first impressions of it are.
Okay, Michael?
Steven.
Hold on.
Jose,
Jose has
should
something to
finish
say.
his thought maybe.
Okay, yeah, go
Steven.
ahead.
I hope that you have the wisdom to tell me what we just went through. Um, Positive experience. What?
What are you even
um,
saying? You're just saying random
Yeah,
words.
you're just saying words that don't like connect.
that's how this movie makes me feel. Like what
Oh,
do we
okay.
do? Like
Okay.
the lighthouse was confusing, but I this movie almost confuddles me because
Confuddles.
it's like it's a good time, but I'm also like, did was this the movie, or like was it deep, or was it just a good time, or was it supposed to be deep?
Oh,
That's how
okay.
I'm feeling right
That's
now.
that's an interesting first take.
Yeah.
From then on, do we want to go down the line, Michael?
Sure. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was really funny. It did deal with some you know, important things about child depression, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Kids who feel like they're outcasts and stuff. I like that it talked about that, like all of these kind of movies do. But it was a really good time. It was really funny. It's really dumb, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so my first impression, I thought it was gonna be about um, some sort of Eastern society because
This fucker,
I thought
Knew
this
Moonrise
guy,
nothing.
Kingdom meant
Knew
the
yeah. I
nothing.
moon
walked in literally not knowing
kingdom. That's it.
anything about this movie. I've done this with half the movies we've watched. Okay, or at least two of them.
That's
This
about
one
half.
and
This is number five.
Two
yeah,
of
true,
them.
Yeah.
true. So I walked in thinking it was gonna be like Eastern or like something, and then I remember you saying that it wasn't as heavy as the other ones we've watched recently.
Mhm.
I was entirely
Which I
Um,
saying, yeah.
probably shouldn't have said because there are very heavy points to this movie.
yeah. Okay. Well, the thing is that it didn't feel heavy. Yeah, there's a lot of
Mm.
really good points. But walking into it and it's kind of like what I've taken away like directly is just it's a good movie, good writing. He obviously did his research on troubled children, orphans, and kind of like what they experience and everything.
Mhm.
Um, and I just think it was a really good take from a child's point of view, like a great big world,
Mhm.
essentially. So yeah,
Hmm.
so
Wow.
good movie, positive.
Hmm.
What about you,
Nathaniel?
Steven? Oh, okay.
Oh, I kind of already said I enjoyed it a lot. Um, I
You
love
were
this movie. I
you
think
were stoked.
yeah, I was. It's really fun. It's not even my favorite movie of his. I just think that every movie he makes is just like dripping with tone and style that like he creates and then he like works around where in all these like in every like frame of this movie there's like layers. I don't mean to like say that he's a genius, but it's really cool the way that he shoots movies and the way that he colors them and the way that he puts information in the shot that isn't directly related, but if you look at it, it kind of adds to the theme or maybe the plot. Probably something that everyone does, but I think it really works with his like style of like storytelling, where it's very like vibrant and very visual. Um, and yeah, I watching this movie or any of his movies is very fun, even though I've only seen like two or three. Nathaniel,
I enjoyed it. I liked the movie. It was really good. I love the colors, but yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. It was cool. First I wasn't okay with how they took John McClane's character, but
Shut up.
I'm happy how they did John McClane in the end. I really did enjoy it. It was cool.
So, what
Cool.
Nathaniel's referencing, just so everyone gets it, Bruce Willis was in the movie. He calls him John McClane because of the Die Hard series.
He does
Well,
play a cop.
I mean, this
So.
movie is about. I mean, yeah,
This
he
movie
is
is
John.
not about him.
That's pretty sure it's John McClane. We
This
didn't
is
get. We didn't,
Technically, he does rescue somebody in the movie.
Oh my gosh, well, this is
He's
not.
older. He's
We are
tired. He went.
not comparing this to
He.
Die Hard.
Okay. I mean,
I
that's
haven't
what
It's a
even
lot of
seen Die Hard.
similarities.
We're not comparing this to that. Don't
This is
sniff
a
my
sequel.
fucking.
Oh my gosh, it was Bruce Willis.
It's a
I'm
sequel.
I said that when he showed up. I was like, bro,
Was
that was
Bruce
Bruce Willis.
in this movie?
I didn't hear that. Yeah,
Wow.
I
I
hate
don't know.
you, Jose.
Is it
I
Die
The
hate
more
you.
you know.
I think this might be Die Hard 5. I don't know. It's something up there, or like a.
Spiritual successor.
Yeah,
This
thank
is
you,
a
Jose.
spiritual successor to Die Hard.
He retired. He went to the island and he had to use his old skills to help find the
And
He
you gotta-
retired in the
However-
past in 1965.
Special set skills.
This is getting intense. Different dimensions.
Dude,
Yeah,
dude,
also
but
his
was
name in
after
this is
Die Hard.
Duffy.
Oh, but
He changed it.
after
Simply.
Die Hard 5, he
in all
he built a
seriousness.
time machine and went back in
Oh.
time, and that's where it
Changed
was.
his name, lived a new life. Yeah.
There you go.
In all seriousness, how you said style, Steven. Wes Anderson's really cool for. He's really good at like giving tone and like stylization and color to
Yeah.
his film. And
Yeah.
when I looked at it, I was like, man, kind of shows you like it can really help build the atmosphere. So when you see this, oh, this is like a nice, fun adventure. Then I was like, what's the direct opposite? The Lighthouse. That's a disgusting.
Dark,
Yeah.
bleak. Yeah,
Dark,
exactly.
bleak
You're
place.
100% right.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought. One of the things I've noted while watching.
So are we gonna? So does this mean that Jose just doesn't understand Wes Anderson films?
I don't think so.
Wait, hold
but
up.
I
How
really
did how did this turn into a Jose finally isn't big brain galaxy IQ enough to get these movies, bro? He finally found the one to stump him. But
Guys?
please help me.
Well, because
What's up?
wasn't.
As an S movie, we should watch Patterson. Because both Jared Gilman and Kara Hayward, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly,
Patterson?
but both of them are in Patterson. Like 4 years later, they're both in Patterson.
You what?
Oh, are they both
So-
the leads?
I think so. I think they might
Nope,
be the leads. I'm not
Because
sure.
that
Are they not?
is Adam Driver.
Okay. It is Adam Driver. Frick. Okay. Yeah.
Professor, can you please help
Patterson,
me? I
where
have questions.
He's just male student. Never
Oh,
mind.
they are.
Race.
Yeah, male student and female student.
Yeah, they're in it.
Yeah.
They're just side characters. That's dope.
One other thing I wanted to say about, since we were talking about how like well shot and like I don't know, framed and made this movie is it most movies shot composition wise, like if you go back to like the 50s, right? Every movie is like wide shot, and then like someone walks into a building or something, and then it's like a closer shot and like a mid shot.
Yep.
And then it's like the character's face or dialogue, and then it's like shot of one character, reverse shot of the other character, reverse shot, wide shot, and then we go to the next scene. This movie is not like that at all. It's constantly, the camera's like moving, it's twirling, it like turns up and people stare out of windows or off of balconies. It like backs up and it moves in and it zooms in, and then sometimes it's just like zoomed in when you get to the shot. And I just think that helps with the refreshing nature of the movie, like that shot that you said where they had to do so many times when they caught the can, like
Bro,
that was just like the camera sliding sideways, which is a really cool way
Yeah.
to do that scene, like a search, how you like slide
Yeah.
from one side of the. I thought that was really cool, but
It's
I
just
don't know.
scenes like that always take fucking forever because the dude who's supposed to catch it fucks up.
You
it-
right them.
It happens in
Where
every.
he threw it behind him and he caught it.
Yeah, and that happens in
Yeah.
like every movie. Those scenes always need to be shot multiple times.
Yeah.
I feel like after the 5th or 6th try, they actually start catching it.
Yeah, probably.
So
But then they're not
as long
catching
as
it in
it's
the
not
right
180
way.
something, right?
I get that would be a lot of takes to catch a can. Yeah.
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 I would agree.
That or climbing the stairs.
That's a lot shorter
Um,
than the scene of climbing the stairs, though. So it's not
If I
half
could-
bad.
Go ahead.
What was y'all's opinions? Because this whole movie has a lot of star power, a lot of great
100%.
actors and actresses. So let me ask you
Mhm.
this: what did you think of the characters that were in it? What did you feel about the characters that we were introduced to?
I could start on that.
Mhm.
I think there's like a very healthy like diversity of like characters and like ideals and like what they stand for, what they do. Obviously not racial diversity, but
Yeah,
I don't
everyone in the
know.
movie is white.
It is
Everyone in
this.
the movie is white. I don't. I was thinking about that through the whole movie, and I didn't know what my take on it
I
was
was about to
because
make a joke
Hmm.
because you said that Wes Anderson's good about bringing color, and I was like, bro, everyone's white.
not that
Do you think
kind.
he did
Yeah,
that to kind of stay true? Not okay, not stay true to the time, but like not a lot of. I don't know. It was 1965.
yeah,
I feel like there's a lot less diversity back then
a hundred
than there is
percent.
today. Like
And
today, there would definitely be at least like 2 or 3 African American kids in that camp, right?
yeah, definitely.
But back
And
then, I'm not sure if they had the same
yeah, that's one thing.
ratio. I guess.
Also, I
Well,
don't know.
it was also like a small island,
That's true.
like off the coast of wherever. It was in the U.S., but
Yeah,
wherever the fuck it was.
like northeast
Yeah,
somewhere in the Atlantic.
and like
Yeah,
Rhode
those are,
Island.
yeah,
something like
well,
that.
and those are like, at least back then,
It
like,
says Rhode Island.
okay, well,
Oh,
back
okay.
then those were predominantly white. Like those are very white places already, and so an island off the coast of Rhode Island, like those are filled with white people. They just are.
Hmm.
It's just like islands off of Massachusetts the same way. Most people are just white there. So I feel like it was also just to let you know like where it was.
Now that I think about it, there were a couple scouts who were. I don't think any of them were black actually, but I think there were a few that were like Indian or like of
Yeah.
mixed descent.
Yeah.
Not to I don't know. I don't feel one way or the other about this. It was just something that I noticed, and I don't know my take on it.
Hmm.
Also, there's that boy with the Indian headdress, and I keep thinking to myself that it was like him poking fun at the scouts, like we are natural, we are nature, we're like the great Native Americans, we live off the land. But it's like poking fun at that because like you're definitely not like them. There is
Yeah.
like a massive disconnect.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know, but that might be me reading too far into that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just
I,
an idea I had.
I felt that, Steve. I'm kind of
But
with you. I feel like he was making a nod.
yeah. But back to the characters. Yeah, great, great, great like diversity of characters, and even though they're like child actors in this movie, I feel like they give a pretty genuine performance.
They did a very good job. I actually was gonna mention, I think it's really interesting, um, the lack of emotion in this movie.
Yeah,
And I think,
definitely.
I was
like,
literally gonna bring that up.
yeah, no. So this is what I thought was most interesting about this movie, is that there was one character that actually showed some semblance of emotion, like at least a lot, if anything, and
It was
that
the
was
Scoutmaster.
the Scoutmaster. He's the
Mhm.
only person that like really showed any emotion,
Mhm.
and like I know that, like that has to be like a stylistic choice. Like he did that on purpose. He told everyone be
That
like,
maybe the policeman.
no, he still really didn't. Even when he was sad, he still spoke monotoned and had a
I
straight face. He still also like never showed emotion. It was pretty much only the Scoutmaster.
the girl cried, but that was
But she
she
still
kind of
had
did
like
it with the
yeah,
the exact same expression. You're right.
yeah, the same expression. Like everyone had like
Yeah.
the same expression the whole time. And I thought that was really cool. I like that in the movie a lot. I think that's really interesting because
Yeah.
while everything was still fun, everything still felt off because of it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. And like I don't know, everyone had like their problems and shit
Mhm.
too, but the Scoutmaster like he was like the only one not afraid to like show his like whole self, you know? Because the kid
Mhm.
didn't even smile until the end of the movie when he got adopted, you know? The main character, Sam, that was his name.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
only time
Shoot.
he showed emotion was when he got adopted. He smiled. And well, no, he did before that too, which when he was with Susie. I think it was when they were on the beach. They both smiled then, but other than that, they usually showed like a lack of emotion, and I thought it was really cool. I like that a lot. I thought it was a really cool choice because usually movies are the opposite, where they like overshow emotion, you know, where like
Mhm.
Mhm.
emotions are like you're supposed to like dramatize those because you
Mhm.
know that's how movies are, and I thought it was a
Mhm.
really interesting choice.
I,
Nathan.
to me that
Mhm.
Well, to me, that like leads back into the thing you said, like right off the top, was about how this is a movie about like mental health, but like
Yeah,
with children, and like how I don't know the world kind of responds to or like adds to it.
yeah,
And I don't know, like you can't always tell who's like broken on the inside or like how
hmm,
they feel, and so like almost all these characters like are just the same on the outside, but on the inside they're all very different in the ways that like I don't know they're like hurt or I don't know the ways that they like feel about what's going on around them, which I don't know is kind of telling I guess
Mm-hmm.
about like what he saw in this movie and what he wanted to show.
Mhm. So, Nathaniel, do
Yes,
you
sir.
remember what Dr. Sam said when we were writing? We were writing, I think, our short stories.
I
For
don't.
context, Nathaniel and I took a
Me neither.
creative writing two
Oh,
course.
Of course I do.
he
Um,
gave us so many good, so much great advice.
yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. It was the one where it's like, don't don't do bad writing unless you're specifically trying to do bad writing. That's what it was.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's
That one.
amazing.
Yeah, crazy, right? Basically, what he was saying is bad writing unless you're specifically trying to do it, and then it's good writing. Um, that is exactly how I felt while watching this movie and watching these characters interact. Because kind of what we're taught to do is make sure that characters act human, right? They have human things. They go, they
Mm-hmm.
cut each other off. They kind of do stuff like that.
Hmm.
You got to make sure they have human interaction, otherwise you won't connect with them. But in this movie, the main two characters were they didn't act like that at all. They just had like these weird um I don't know, they called him like emotionally damaged or something
Hmm.
in the movie, right? But
Yeah.
they acted
Disturbed.
just like
Yeah.
a little kid would write a character. Very direct to the point, like, let's do this, let's do that, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that, let's do that, let's do that. Okay. This. It's like almost robotic like. But
Hmm.
in doing that, he built the characters and made them complex characters by giving them simple emotions, or like the simple direct kind of ways of doing things and speaking and answering stuff, and foiling them against these other complex characters that he made show emotions. I do think the cop had a little bit of emotion. Like he
Sure.
had certain things. Like you could tell his life wasn't necessarily in the greatest part of it,
Hmm.
especially with the mother of what's her face?
Suji.
Is it
Susie.
Susie? It is
Susie.
Susie. The mother of Susie.
Hmm.
His relationship with her, and then the scoutmaster just like trying to get his thing together, and he's a math teacher, like all these other things. He foiled them against Susie and Sam. And in doing that, it shows like the complexities of what the kids are going through, and how they're kind of suppressing their own emotions, even though they've both been through some pretty tough times. Her
Hmm.
less than him, which is probably not my favorite moment, but the most meaningful moment that I found in the film was when he kind of snapped on her when she was like, "I wish I was an orphan like you. You guys have such cool character arcs." And he's like, "That's not how it is.
Hmm.
Don't you're you're you feel like the orphans are glorified or glamorized in your
Yeah.
books, but that's not real life."
I think that's
Uh,
telling of like the differences in their characters, where he has a very real, very like physical background of like his pain is like
mm-hmm.
he wears it very much on his sleeve, and she's been like a suppressed like inner house, like don't speak up, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Yeah.
repressed is more the word I should use. But like
Mm-hmm.
they both have like a lot of pain, just different pain, and she
Mm-hmm.
thinks that his pain is like better because it's more like glorious or like more I don't know
It's glamorized in the book she reads.
thematic. Yeah, yeah.
Thematic is a good word. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
perfect.
and
Matic.
yeah, and then he's like, no, that's not how like pain works. You don't want this.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a really cool moment.
Yeah, and that kind of like
Just
a little bit of his like emotions shine through there, where he's just
yeah,
like, "I love you, I disagree, not okay." And I was
yeah.
like, "Dang, this guy like he snapped back, right?" Whereas like normally he's kind of like go with the flow, like just accepts it.
Hmm.
Um, that right there, I feel like a little bit of emotion shine through, kind of like through his shell, because obviously he's gone through his stuff. So he has like a shell built up,
Yeah.
and that's what I credit his kind of emotionless state to.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, the movie was absolutely hilarious for how deep it was.
That's true.
And I know I mentioned this during the movie, and you guys told me to shut up. Was I kind of compare it to Jojo Rabbit, just because. So for those of you who haven't seen Jojo Rabbit,
Such
I
as
also haven't
myself,
um,
seen it.
I have not
Yeah.
seen
you
it.
guys haven't seen it.
No.
No.
Yeah. Well, you guys know what it's about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about
It's a
kind of a.
comedy.
It is a comedy, but in kind of the same um
Are you telling me this movie wasn't a comedy?
Moonrise Kingdom?
Yeah.
Oh
No,
no, it's
I'm talking
definitely a
about
comedy.
talking to Steven. Tell me this wasn't a comedy?
No, I was just he seemed like he was at a loss for words, and I was trying
Oh,
to help.
okay.
This movie is also a comedy.
Yeah, no, it's a romance comedy slash drama or
Sure.
romance slash comedy drama.
He read that off the internet, so.
I did read that off. I'm looking at the Moonrise.
Go
Google
ahead, keep
page.
going. Jojo Rabbit.
So Jojo Rabbit is very I don't know, they seem very like similar in kind of things where it's a story about kids and like innocence, and so like you see all these like kind of like messed up things like Nazi symbols and whatnot, and like all these um just like things that we would consider to be bad, like bad juju nowadays. You see
Nazi
it, and it's
prop.
like through a kid's eyes. He doesn't think anything of it. You know, he's like walking around with a
Mhm.
rocket launcher, like no biggie, and we're like, oof. Um, yeah, no, just that, and then it's very heartfelt too because of like the way the story kind of progresses through it. It's very similar to this one. We should definitely put that on the list.
It is on the
It
list.
is on the list.
It's on the
Yeah,
list. Sweet.
when I was watching this, I legit questioned. I was like, wait. I was like Jojo Rabbit. I was like, didn't as I was watching, I was like, didn't Wes Anderson do that? I was like, no, that was Taika
Yeah,
Waititi.
no, that was
Yes.
Taco Wahiti. Wait,
Taika
Taiko.
Waititi.
is that her?
Yeah,
Taiko
coming out
Wahiti.
the thing, I was like, this is very similar to JoJo. That's why I was like, did Wes Anderson? I was like, nah, he didn't.
I'm sure that he was Taika was very inspired by this, like
I bet he
Oh
visually
yeah,
was.
at the very
Yeah.
least.
yeah, very beautiful film.
Yeah.
Oh, and also with the dialogue and how he's like how no one really shows emotion.
Oh,
I also felt like because you know how they're on an island
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
it's kind of resembles that old school like small town how
Yeah.
everybody like you can't have no skeletons in your closet in a small town because everybody knows it.
Mhm.
I felt like with the lack of emotion here, even though they're on a small island and everyone knows each other, they still all felt very distant
Yeah.
Yeah.
towards each other. They all were like super
we're
distant to
back.
like they may know your
Okay.
name, but I have nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
I think a lot of what has to do with like the children's mind state and like how they are has to do with how like absolutely broken all the adults in their lives have been. Unfortunately, Sam's parents died, not them. They died, which is unfortunate. But
yeah.
everyone who like he came in contact after just like didn't care about him in a way that was like good for him and like
Until they
obvious
found out.
it, until they what?
Until they found out that he was an orphan.
Yeah, yeah. Well, even like the orphanage, that's like, well, we just can't have this anymore. He's too
Yeah.
troubled, even though we got a bunch of troubled kids.
Mhm.
And then they find out that he's an orphan, and it's like, well, I'm really sorry to hear that. And then finally, at the end, there's an adult who shows compassion, and he climbs out during like a monsoon onto the top of a church as it's pouring down, and he's
Mhm.
like, hey, I care about you. And then that shows like, hey, maybe I don't have to be like I don't know, as broken as all the adults in this world.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I saw this.
Okay,
Well, I also
so
was gonna mention that um, I thought it was really interesting. We didn't see a single town in this movie,
Yeah.
which I think was on purpose to exemplify how distant everyone actually is from each other.
Yeah.
Because you didn't see a single town. You saw houses, or like you saw like Susie's house. You saw some random person's house at the end of the movie where the narrator was,
Hmm.
the
and then
church.
you saw the church, and
The
you saw
campground.
the fort, the campground, and then the only other building was where the cop lived, because it was the police station, which was on a dock, not surrounded by anything. And so like I think that also shows how like distant everyone actually is, because
Hmm.
like also the camp master didn't even know that Sam was an orphan,
Yeah.
because no one like in this community no one talks to each other.
Hmm.
Everyone like just deals with their own shit,
Yeah.
because like Susie's family, like we saw the cop go there and talk to them and tell them Sam was missing, and they didn't give two shits. They didn't care at all
Hmm.
until but then they found out Susie was missing and it was like, oh fucking go find her, you know?
Yeah.
Because actually when he's I don't know if anyone noticed, but when he went to go walk away, I'm I don't what is his name? Duffy was his name in the movie, the cop.
Hmm.
Um, when he was like when he was going turning to leave from that scene, he's like, all right, well tell me if you see anything unusual, okay? And then he turned around And they said no. They didn't even
Yeah,
say
I heard
okay.
that
They
too.
said no, and then closed the door and left. They didn't care at all. Like
Mhm.
so, and that's also why I think they didn't show a town, just to show that everyone only cares about themselves. No one cares.
Apathetic.
Yeah, everyone's apathetic to everyone else.
Everyone's got their own little world and doesn't want anybody to infringe
Yeah,
on
and they don't want anyone in it, and they don't care about what's happening in other people's. And so I don't know. That's why I thought it was interesting. Like there weren't. I don't know. There was no town, and I was like, yeah, okay. So this is just meant to show that everyone's distant. Everyone keeps to themselves. No one cares about anyone else on this island.
Yeah.
Yeah, the direct opposite of a small town.
Yeah, and it's what made the ending impactful because someone actually cared. You know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Everybody is forced together in this one room, and then
Yeah.
they see the cop like, hey, that's a really nice thing he did.
Yeah. Actually, I thought the camp counselor or the headmaster, I thought he was gonna do that
Same.
because
Yeah.
he did care for Sam
Yeah.
like a lot.
Definitely.
So I thought he was going the whole time we were watching the movie. I was like, oh, okay. So at the end of the movie, the headmaster's gonna adopt him, but it was the cop,
Mhm.
which was interesting. You know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, if I could add, I did think it was hilarious though in the end when they're standing, they're about to jump, and they're like, "So this is where we jump." And the next thing it cuts straight to Duffy being like, "No, God dang it!" He's like, "Just take my hand." That's like, but he's like, "No, stop it."
No, dude, the last 30, maybe 25 minutes of the movie where it was just a roller coaster of funny situation because like throughout the entire movie, obviously, the narrator at the beginning of the movie is like, this is 3 days before this big storm.
Mhm.
And we're like, okay, that's gonna be the climax. That's when everything hits, right? And it's like you've got all these characters that you kind of see, like the camp counselor is kind of seeming like he's incompetent because he can't do anything for himself. And then he does like these great feats, like freaking jumping across a ton of water
Bro,
with
I
a man
love.
on his back who
I
has a
didn't talk.
bridge
Yeah.
falls
I didn't
behind
talk
him.
about it yet, but I love how like poor the special effects are in this movie.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
no, it
I
was
love it
great.
so
It was a
much.
very, very
It
good
was,
decision,
Yeah.
stylistically.
it
Yeah.
gave it like it's like the freaking the lightning scene is what I'm trying to say.
So
Yeah.
fucking funny, dude.
Yeah, dude, Michael, you died
I
during the movie.
die because like
Dude,
if you
freaking
look, they did it really
Nicholas.
fast, but they literally he didn't even move. He was in the same position, and they lifted him up and made him do a spin, and he flew backwards.
Yeah.
Like the shit you see, like shitty edits online. That's what that was, and it was so funny.
Mhm.
Yeah.
My thing was the nickels pretty much stayed in the same place.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? Just
Uh,
like I don't know. I love how they're like, I don't know. There was no all the dialogue in the movie, especially like between characters, is like, I was a marriage counselor. This isn't gonna stick anybody, but this has a real meaning thing. Yeah, let's do it. Are you sure? Yeah, let's do it. Go talk it over there, and they just like they're over there, and you're watching the guy do backflips to kind of like pass time.
yeah.
And then they come back and like, yeah, let's do it. And he's like,
Oh, I loved
okay.
Cousin Ben a lot. He was really
Your
cool.
cousin Ben was
That
hilarious.
guy's
really
a great
funny.
actor, but yes.
That dude is a
Yeah,
great
his
actor.
character
I've
was
seen
cool.
him. I can't think of anything else he's in, but I've seen him in other stuff, and he's great.
I will tell you in a second.
I forgot his name. It's like
Jason Schwartz.
He's in Scott Pilgrim.
Schwar-
He's the
Schwartzman?
villain at the end.
he's the main
He
bad guy.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. He did.
Two things.
Is this one? Mary Antoinette. Scott Pilgrim, Saving Mr. Banks.
Oh, I know him from.
Um,
I think I know him in that because I watched Saving Mr. Banks.
I will
I
let
like
you know
that
if I
movie.
recognize anything else. No, but I recognize him from other things too. Don't worry.
And, I don't want to take conversation, but I do have two things to talk about.
You go ahead. I think we were done with that.
I feel like Duffy, when he was climbing the church to get to the kids and talk to him, I feel like in his head he was like, first skyscrapers, now churches, and like I thought I would.
Shut up.
But no, and also the second thing was I don't know. It felt like kind of on how like the bad CGI. Was it just me or was it seem like he was like poking like fun at different genres of movie? So the action genre, him jumping from the explosion while sliding to the rain. I was like, I feel like he would poke fun. And this is not a dig at you, Brian, but when they first introduced Gus or Sam, their first name was Sam, right?
Sam.
Yes.
Yeah.
When they first introduced him, he's paddling on a rowboat wearing a raccoon hat. I was like John Wayne. It reminded me of those old Western adventure movies.
Oh my gosh.
Even the scene when the Boy Scouts caught up to them, that whole scene right there reminded me. Even the music in the background reminded me of like an old western.
That
where
reminded
he's
me of a western, yeah.
like don't cross the stick. Has
That
the
was
gun,
funny.
like that's supposed to be
Yeah.
like outlaws, and he's the one gunslinger that's like the fastest in the West. I was
The
like,
guy came rolling up in the freaking the motorcycle. I was like, oh
The
my
way that the action in that scene was edited, where it's like this, you see a flash cut of the scissors and the arrow, and then it cuts to like the woods away, and you hear screams, and then you realize what
They're
happened.
all
I
running.
thought that
It's
was
like,
a
oh my
really
gosh.
cool way to
Yeah.
show action between kids, but not show a kid getting stabbed. I thought that
Mhm.
was really cool.
Yeah.
What was really surprising is how much they downplayed death. Especially like with what was it, like it wasn't Snoopy, was it? Was his name Snoopy?
Snoopy was a dog.
Snoopy. It was Snoopy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Snoopy was the dog, right? Yeah, no. So how much they downplayed the death of Snoopy is like those guys were gunning for him or whatever, and they hit him right in the neck, right? And he was just like, was he a good dog? Who am I to say?
Who can
But
say?
he didn't deserve. Yeah,
Yeah.
who could say? But he didn't deserve to go out like that. And then they left it. There was nothing else. He literally took off the stick, threw it down,
He took
and
out
like
the
walked
arrow.
away.
Yeah.
Or yeah, sorry.
He was like mad though when he walked
He-
away, he, like threw it down.
Yeah, he was
like,
upset.
He
"Ugh."
was, but like when you see like the death of a character, or the death of like a dog or something, there's normally like a dramatized I don't know,
Yeah, whole scene of
scene. There's a
I
whole
see what
scene
you
like
mean.
like he didn't bury him or anything. That was literally he threw down the arrow and walked away, and that was the last you saw of Snoopy.
And even the owner, like later in the movie, he's like, "You killed your dog, by the way." He's like, "It can't be helped." It's like, what?
Yeah.
which was poking. Like I think that was poking. You know, it was like another thing of poking fun of like the bad guy. He's like,
Yeah,
got
we
binoculars.
gotta have
Like
a villain.
even the kid in the treehouse, he poked fun at like when he kicked the chair and he was like, "Look at us, look what we've done. We pushed them away." Like it was
It's so
like with
funny.
a Godfather being like kicking the desk, being like, "Look what's going on to us. We're breaking apart." I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
By the way,
Oh my god.
just to interject real quick, Jason Schwartzman is his name,
Mm-hmm.
and
Sportsman.
he's in a whole bunch of movies that are on our movie list.
Nice.
Is
He's
he?
in
I
the
haven't
See him.
seen any of them.
He's in the Darjeeling Limited,
Also Wes Anderson movie.
Fantastic Mr. Fox,
Also.
Scott
Also.
Pilgrim, The Grand Budapest Motel or Hotel.
Also by Wes Anderson.
He's in a lot of Wes Andersons. He's in Claws, Isle of Dogs, like a whole bunch of shit that's
Fantastic
on our
Mr. Fox?
list, and Wes Anderson movies.
Bill Murray's in a lot of Western films too.
He is. There's one where he's the protagonist, which is cool.
Hmm. Do you have Balls of Fury on the list?
We should put that on
Why?
the list. That's a good movie.
I don't know what that is.
You
Ping
don't know
pong.
what it is?
About
I'm
ping
sure
pong.
I've seen it.
It's not on the list.
It's Jack Black.
I know.
Oh.
Is that Jack? That's not Jack Black.
It is Jack Black.
No, it's
isn't
not.
It? Wait, no, it's not.
Not
Is it
Jack
not?
Black.
I
That's the
haven't seen it in so long.
It's about ping pong, and he has to battle his way to the top. Christopher Walken's in it, and Terry Crews.
Jesus.
Oh, he is that. You know, you're right. That's not Jack Black.
Let's say you're
But-
racist.
I like the comedic timing.
You mean he's
was
white?
also good in the movie.
What
Like
is that
when
supposed to mean?
Yeah.
when they discover the kids in the tent. I like how it's not like there's a moment where you just see Bill Murray character. He's pissed off, but he stops,
Mm-hmm.
and he just charges towards the tent. I'm like, that's some good timing, right? And he just flips it up. Like, what are you kids doing?
Hmm.
Some good stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was really sweet the ending with the painting, and
Yeah.
and how the I don't know, whatever it was called was like wiped off the map and it's gone forever. I thought that was really
Yeah,
sweet.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Also that ending showed to me that, at least to me, it seemed like the family still didn't like him. They still wouldn't let him in, which is why he had
He
to
snuck
sneak
in.
in and sneak
Yeah.
out. Because
But they also don't have enough control over their family to know that he's in the house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he just has the opportunity. Just
Yeah,
'cause
he
they're
can
not
just
the best
do it.
parents.
I thought that was hinted at the beginning when the freaking mother pulled out the megaphone. I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
obviously
They have
they're
problems
not
communicating. Yeah.
they're not very good parents.
They're
And, like,
dysfunctional.
Also, in every shot in the beginning, I didn't really like want to point this out, obviously, but each time they're like scaling through the house, there's Frances McDormand, who's the mom, and Bill Murray, and they're not in the same room. They're in
Yeah.
2 different rooms, and they're
Yeah.
always doing
even when
something
they
different.
even when they were both in bed, they were in 2 separate beds.
Yeah.
It's just like things like that. And although I saw
I
that
mean, that
like,
kind of was like 2 separate beds, like was a thing back then. That I don't know if you know that actually is a thing couples used to do. They didn't sleep in the same bed. That was just a thing in the U.S.
Dog, that's
back in the day. But that also a lot of movies use that to exemplify marital problems.
Yeah.
Because I've seen other movies that do that too, and they all
Yeah.
exemplify this marriage problems,
Mm-hmm.
which is how I knew in the beginning that there was something wrong with their relationship.
Yeah.
Hmm. Um,
There were so many just absurd things, like the freaking tree house, how high it was built, like it goes
yeah,
all the way up. You're like, oh, okay, that's an accident waiting to happen, or just like the different
sure.
things and how militarized he made the camps. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
obviously he had someone like doing something like the shoot what's his name I'm dying.
I don't know who you're
Sam?
thinking.
Scoutmaster.
Oh, Scout.
Scoutmaster is the word I was looking for. Yeah, when the Scoutmasters, they didn't have to do anything. He woke up in the morning, he had his thing already ironed out. Somebody already made food, like all these things, right? And it was the same with the other Scoutmaster at freaking Fort something.
Yeah, one of them was shaving him.
Yeah, exactly. He's literally Commander something. He
Hmm.
was the Harvey Kennel. Commander something. I don't know. Literally, his name just says Commander.
Mr.
Uh, I just
Yeah.
like just the way that was seemed very like militarized.
Hmm.
So I kind of understand like I guess the not the foils but the similarities between the two. Yeah, I don't know. And between that and the lightning field. Wait a sec.
Dude, it was called Lightning
It was literally
Field.
called
Yeah,
Lightning Field.
I'm fairly certain he did that to draw parallels between that and the firing fields in the military, like
Oh.
on bases. Like
Oh.
they have like live ammunition fields, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know. I used to deliver to a naval base, and every once in a while you'd hear the sirens, and they'd start firing these guns to just like test fire them, right?
Hmm.
These massive. It was a naval base, so it would be like these big gunships. So they had like a live fire zone, and so that. There's parallels there. There's definitely parallels there. Just like I don't know with a lot of stuff.
For
Hmm.
reference audience, he was delivering pizza, not
Pizza. I used to
guns or anything.
no
Or
no. I used
drugs.
Pizza.
or drugs. No drugs. I had pizza
Not
delivery boy over
tech. I
here.
guess pizza kind of
Um,
is a drug in and of itself, like in its own
Like,
way.
maybe
If
you
like,
guys
pizza's a
pizza.
drug, I'm addicted and I need more.
I'm an addict. Yeah.
Take me to
You
rehab.
interesting.
guys are sick freaks.
Take me to
Um,
rehab.
I wanted to talk about one theme, and then I was gonna ask Jose a few things. But the theme I was gonna talk about, which is actually one thing that Jose kind of uh, I don't know, pointed us to, was in the church. They started with the play about Noah's Ark, and then the church like
Excuse
still
me.
still yeah, that was
Sorry,
what
Jose.
Jose said.
Wait, what?
Um,
It is.
the
Jose
play
Jose doesn't know Bible stories. It's okay.
the
Okay.
Well, I do, but I just fucked that up.
it was funny. It was fine. The play that they had in the church, that's how Sam and Susie met,
Hmm.
was the story of Noah and
No.
Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
And then at the very end of the film, there's a flood, and then everyone has to get in the church, which I don't know. It's like a parallel between the stories and about
Yeah.
how
I
like
see that.
yeah, the
Yeah.
church is the ark. Um, I don't know. I don't want to. Speaking about the similarities past that would be kind of reaching. I'm sure they're there, but I'm not.
I
I
feel
don't
it'd be
have any
reaching. Yeah.
clearly in my mind. One of two. No, no, no. Exactly. But I don't know. It
I
was an
think they were the
interesting.
last two humans.
I
Maybe.
guess.
No.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
just
never mind.
no.
Never mind. Never
That's the
mind.
What?
game.
This is for
Um,
smarter people than us. Um, but
Obviously.
I
I
haven't
just
read
thought
the
that was
story in a while. It's been a bit.
yeah, it was an interesting theme that I
Yeah.
thought I would bring up. And one that I don't even think I noticed the first time going through. But yeah, I don't know. And when everything ends, like the crops were more like opulent or whatever, and like
Yeah, they were
I don't
better
know.
for it.
Yeah, stuff is better. Yeah, yeah. I guess that's another term.
Restart. Everything restarts, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. Anyways, if there's nothing else, Jose, I was interested in after hearing all this discussion. Do you have anything you want to add or any questions or comments?
I don't have any galaxy takes to expand.
You don't need that. Just
No,
like
you don't need to. Yeah, it's all
yeah,
right.
that's not a big deal. But like I don't know, cuz you said that there was some things that you didn't like quite
I,
like did we clear anything up that you didn't see or did we see something you didn't see? Did you see something we didn't see? Like
Um,
Are you
been to-
contrarian? Did you hate this movie?
no, contrary, no.
Hmm. I
No, I feel like we've been covering a good amount of stuff. I don't feel like the movie was, it's not one of those like, it's a very stylistic movie from like what I um am feeling, I
Yeah.
guess to say. It's
Hmm.
really like it kind of like we know what's going on,
Hmm.
yeah, it's not
and
a Galaxy Brain movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and I really like that about it. I feel like specifically with like I always have like the tendency when the movie starts, you can really tell like what kind of director's in charge of the movie. And even though I hadn't seen a Wes Anderson film before, he really has like a command with the camera angles and stuff.
No,
So you can really feel like there's
definitely.
like sort of like an artist behind the camera, like throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
And I just want to check: is every Wes Anderson movie this kind of absurdist?
Uh, in
Uh,
I
some
doubt
ways, a lot of them have different like
it.
I don't know. I don't want to say like kind of a different tone, but you can tell that it's Wes Anderson. He has like puppet movies and
Oh God.
movies that aren't live action.
no,
So I
fans,
think
don't worry, Michael. It's not like puppets, the ventriloquist. It's more
Oh.
like stop.
You tell me we're not watching what Team America? Is that
I
what
don't
it's called?
believe that's on the
But
list.
Okay, let's keep it off the list. Let's
Yeah, I
not
think
put that on.
I don't have anything to say about that. But yeah, like you can tell it's one of his movies. I think that was a good way of putting it, Jose. It's just about like the way that he controls the screen, the writing, what's in the shot, just everything. It really is like you've done something great when like every one of your films you don't even have to put your name on it and it's like, oh, that is one of my films. I
it's
think
like
that's it's a really cool thing.
not to know. It's like
You don't-
Tarantino. You know when a Quentin
Yeah,
Tarantino makes. Same with Wes
exactly.
Anderson. You'll know if it's
Yeah,
his
well,
film,
I mean, you'll see a lot
Exactly.
of feet for Quentin Tarantino. So
and
Well,
you'll see like
I think Wes Anderson has very similar things. It's like this absurdist style. It's very silly, but it also like has a lot of things to say. It's like funny but also serious kind of. The color, he uses a lot of pastels. Um,
I was gonna say, yeah, he uses a
oh,
lot of pastels.
art major
I,
over here.
uh,
Pat.
yeah, honestly, I there was one thing that I read about this, and it was Robert Ebert, who made The Lighthouse, but also The Witch. He said uh, that the oh man, I can't find it. Oh, he said he identified the color scheme as emphasizes green in the grass, khaki in the scouts' camps' uniforms, and some red, creating the feeling of magical realism. Which I don't know. I think is
I was gonna say it
pretty good
was.
way to sum up color.
I thought it was hilarious that they were called the Khaki Scouts. I
Yeah,
thought that was
very on
so
the nose.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bryan, magical realism. Bryan, remember magical realism? Haven't you
Yes,
learned?
dude, magical realism.
Because it did remind me kind of like a fairy tale. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
enchanted
Yeah.
wonder.
Wait
Like
a sec. Isn't that the story we read about the very old man with very large wings?
yep, the man with the old man with the wings. Yep,
Yeah, old man with very large wings.
yeah, yes sir. Man, what a good movie! It felt so good watching that movie again. It was so
I
nice.
I feel the exact same way. I think it's a trip, and I like it a lot.
Okay, it's with enormous wings. Excuse me.
Oh, very
Sorry.
important
Wow.
correction.
Right.
Very important
Or
correction. If anybody wants to read this, it's actually really good. It's a short story. It's like a couple pages long. Maybe a little longer than
What if
that.
I say no?
Then say
you can watch.
no.
Mm,
Stand your fucking
say no.
ground.
Oh,
Jose,
No.
I think you'd like it because it was originally written in Spanish.
Ha! I will not fall for this trick.
We don't
It was
fall for
though.
those tricks.
No, I
It was.
don't
It's written by
read, dog.
Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I
Shit,
think.
that's my favorite writer, dog. How he got me.
Dang, you should read
I
it.
got tricked.
Okay. Anyways,
People,
I
back to the story.
at the beginning of this movie, there's music from Benjamin Britten, I think, and there's someone talking about it, and the intro is them going through the house, so you get uh, accompanied with the family and the location of this house, and it kind of like starts to build this picture of her life and like what's up with her and her family, Susie. But also, there's like dialogue over the music, and it's like first we'll show the entire orchestra together, and then we'll break it apart into sections, and then see how they're on their own, and then bring it back together at the end. And I don't know how that
Foreshadowing.
represents the movie, but I feel like it's something that is very representative of the movie.
Yeah, it's
It's kind,
foreshadowing, kind of like the
yeah,
entire plan for the movie.
yeah. We see like the Sam and Susie on their own, and then Sam and Susie with the scouts, and then Sam and Susie. with like the
Mhm.
adults and the family, and then we see everyone back together at the end. Kind of like everyone. We see everyone at the beginning together and everyone at the end together, but things are much different. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of
Much like life.
yeah,
Much like life.
exactly. A neat little piece of
I'll see
foreshadowing.
all you guys in hell.
Yeah, okay.
Nah, you won't see me there. Mm-mm.
I thought
Yeah,
we'll get to next week before we start talking about going to hell. Jeez Louise.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Does anyone else have anything they want to add about this movie?
I enjoyed it.
What's
Really, that's all.
Really.
Like
Yeah.
it was a good time. I'm so glad it's not about some Eastern Kingdom. Uh,
What's wrong with
'cause
Eastern Kingdoms?
that's what it. Well, they're normally heavier in tone and a lot
I
more like
I
conflict.
guess yeah, I guess something about royalty would be pretty
Yeah, generally there's like a coup going on or a
yeah,
war
not
or
as
something.
appealing,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Whereas this one was just a nice little comedy, enjoyable kids. Just
Yeah,
I don't know, very innocent in tone.
sure.
Sort of.
Sure.
I don't know, it's heavier too, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
like
just
Yeah.
like fun time. It's a good time. Is
like
what
a
I'm trying to say.
good old kids adventure film. Where it's
Yeah.
heavy and there's also like a lighthearted message.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I um
Hey, you guys! Sorry.
Michael, if you didn't mute yourself on the stream, then they can hear you. No problem. I thought that this doesn't have anything to do like thematically or anything.
I
It was
did mute
just
myself on stream.
good. Sorry, I was just making sure.
Oh, really?
Oh, I don't
um,
damn it.
um,
What?
what was I saying? Oh, I this was just something that I was thinking when Susie was reading to Sam and all the other scouts, like the way that they laid, I could just imagine them like 70 years from now in the exact same like position, like her reading to him at night and he's just laying there and then she looks at him and he's like, "Continue."
Continue. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
And I just thought that that was really sweet that I could imagine that just because they're so I don't know, they're so like stylized and they're so identifiable and
Uh-huh.
I don't know, something like that. I don't know what to say, but that
Felt like an old couple.
It's really good.
yeah,
Yeah.
an old couple in the who were actually 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, it sounds
Time to
like
move
it's
on to
about
the
time
next.
to
To
roll for
move
the
on to
movie.
our next. Yeah.
All right.
What is it
Roll
called?
the
Next
fucking
segment.
dice!
Roll.
All
Oh, hold
right.
on. Can we get a
Are
noise
we?
here?
What?
Can we get a noise here? We need like a.
I don't have a soundboard, dude.
But up.
We need. We
I got
need
it.
a soundboard.
I got it. I got it. But up.
Roll
Boom, boom, boom,
one
that
and
was.
have
boom,
I
roll.
love it.
Anyway, I'm rolling it.
boom,
Okay.
We
boom,
got
boom, boom, boom.
eighth grade. We're getting a
I
whole
don't
bunch of
wanna.
we're getting a
I don't
bunch of
wanna go to middle
Steven
school.
movies.
I don't wanna go to middle school.
I
Where am I?
did put a lot
Okay.
of movies on that list.
Hold on. Put in the. Put in the movie doc.
Okay.
The movie doc thing,
Eighth
and we'll vote on
grade.
it.
It
We'll vote on it.
is
Eighth grade is the movie from I don't remember the comedian.
a drama slash comedy.
Yeah, what's the name of the guy who made it?
The director. Oh, it's Bo Burnham.
Bo Burnham. This is his first movie, and
Oh,
it's about.
I'll watch a Bo Burnham movie. That dude's fucking
Okay.
hilarious.
Hold on.
I heard that it
Hold on.
was incredible, and
Put in
I'm
movie
pretty
doc.
excited to watch it. It's
It's
a
only a
Nathaniel.
gentleman.
dollar on Amazon Prime. It says.
Dope.
Imagine re-rolling for another movie once in our life to make it interesting.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds pretty much like the three of you guys are all like, "Yes, please."
We've
Nathaniel,
re-rolled before. We're not gonna re-roll for the
Nathaniel,
sake of re-rolling, Brian. Are
you
you
guys
fucking
re-rolled the
dumb?
freaking Meg. We should not have done that.
Because that movie's horrible.
I
Doo
didn't want to
doo.
watch the Meg.
I did. I wanted to
I
watch the Meg.
yeah, but that's why there's a vote, Brian.
I'm
I
just saying,
didn't.
Nathaniel,
I
they
did not
outranked
want to
us.
watch
We
that
need-
because
we need to get
I know
two
that
more
I would have
people.
had to pay for it. I did not want to pay for that movie.
Audience, don't you love the behind the scenes? You're catching some right now.
We
Okay.
live in a democracy,
Um,
Ryan, and
So we have two
voted.
people who don't want to watch eighth grade, and we have three people that do want to watch eighth grade.
Dog,
So does
it's
that mean that we will watch eighth grade?
I mean,
well,
I'm
what I'm saying is it's the same split every time. It's always me and Nathaniel on one side, and you three on the other.
Then you should
my
get
personal-
better taste.
Okay, wait.
Down with
An
the.
idea. An idea.
Also, you didn't post it in movie doc first. Wait, no, hold on.
An idea.
Guess it'd be in
We would
general
like to
review.
watch eighth grade, but I think what Brian wants to say is that it's kind of the same as the movie we watched this week, correct?
Yes.
What if we postpone eighth grade to the week after, and then we watch this movie or we watched
We're
a different movie
doing
for
the
the next week.
Tarzan thing again.
A little bit, except that one we were gonna watch Uncut Gems because I want to watch Uncut Gems. This is we put another movie in between. Is that a move or is that not a move?
Did he just fucking
I think
KK
I
gun me? bro?
I think that kind of
It's
defeats
Wonka
the
gun.
entire purpose
Yep.
of rolling. But if you want to, we can.
I see
I
what
think
you
that
mean.
defeats the whole purpose of choosing
I don't know.
randomly,
We
though.
can watch it next
Yeah,
week. It's
Brian,
okay.
Brian,
I
let's
mean,
watch it. Let's watch it.
yeah.
Okay.
We've watched
I can
some
re-roll.
heavy.
Bro,
What
this is
was
like
the ones? Hold on,
American
let me check
Honestly,
this.
it's
Let me check
comedy.
this
Let's
really
get some
quick.
comedy.
It's a comedy,
Dog
yeah.
Millionaire. That was the other one I walked into completely blind.
Let's get some
Well, I was
comedy.
gonna say because we keep like I don't know, like I'm okay with it because this movie isn't like it's also like a funny. This movie's a comedy coming up.
It's
Did we watch
So
it's also
Tarzan last week?
watch what? Last week
last
was
week we
Uncut
watched Uncut
Gems.
Gems.
Okay, so this is number 5 then.
Ugh.
The one we're on right now is 5.
Moonrise was 5.
Yeah.
Eighth grade is different. It's much more like rooted in reality and also in like the modern world as opposed to 1960s United States on some remote island off the coast
Yeah.
of Rhode Island.
Yeah, walking
It's
into
in like LA or something.
walking into Moonrise Kingdom, I actually didn't like how it was stylized at first, but I warmed up to it.
Sure,
Like,
sure, that's interesting.
yeah,
Okay, so
I was
am
like,
I
"Oh."
re-rolling and we're doing
No,
8th grade the week
no,
after?
Eighth grade.
We're doing 8th grade.
What? Never mind.
We're
All right,
chilling. We're
fine.
chilling.
Okay.
Thank God.
Yeah. Okay, so we're watching 8th grade next week.
Hey,
Alright.
welcome to middle school, baby.
Yep. We'll see you all next week for how awful middle school was.
Oh my gosh, here
movie.
comes the cringe. Eric, see you guys next week.
Hell yeah. All right, say goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank
I
you for
love
listening.
you.
Was back
This was
at it
fun.
again.
Bye.